Let's now bring in Dr. Raywat Deonandan. He is an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa. Dr. Deonandan, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So let me begin by asking you on the numbers in Ontario and Quebec. This second wave has seen records being broken in both provinces. And the last 17 days have been reporting fairly high numbers. And then we have restrictions coming in once again. Do you foresee a dramatic change in numbers, or do we need to do more in regards with the restrictions?
Well, I think these restrictions will be sufficient, but I'm a stupid optimist. I always think the best of things, right? And the reason I think they'll be sufficient is that we know more now than we knew back in the spring when we shut everything down. Now we know which environments are the super spreading opportunities, by which I mean the opportunities to be indoors with large numbers of people and transmit it to large numbers of people. These are indoor dining, bars, gyms, casinos, cinemas, that kind of thing. If we can take those opportunities off the table, I think we've got a good chance of driving the case numbers down so that we can open up a little more smartly.
All right. So while the numbers have been high, and like I was saying, we have broken records in this phase 2 second wave, the rate of hospitalizations and death in this phase are lower than as compared to in spring. As an epidemiologist, how are you reading into this percentage of hospitalization and deaths?
Right, it's a good question. First of all, the hospitalizations and deaths are creeping up, which is concerning, right? And there's a few explanations of why the cases are expanding, but the deaths and hospitalizations have been slow to accelerate. One is, of course, these are lagging indicators. It takes a while for the case numbers to make their way into vulnerable populations like the elderly and so forth. Number two is with expanded testing, we're probably getting some more lesser serious cases this time around than the first time around. But again, those will eventually bleed over into another vulnerable demographic. And third reason is we probably have a better idea now how to protect our more vulnerable populations, in particular the long-term care centers. But again, we're seeing some outbreaks of long-term care centers again. So it may just be taking longer to get to these vulnerable populations, but they're getting there. So I don't think we're out of the woods. I do see some positivity here to the extent that we are able to slow the growth of hospitalizations and of deaths, but it's happening. And so we have to be extra careful this time around.
Okay. Doctor, do you see a pattern of what we're seeing right now in terms of, low numbers, restrictions loosened, and then cases rise, restrictions reimposed? Do you see this pattern continue for a while?
It will happen for a while. It's unavoidable. The challenge here is when we reopen the parts of the economy that we close, can we reopen them with further restrictions to prevent having to close them again? I mean, the numbers will go up a little bit. That's, in my opinion, unavoidable. But if we can get that ceiling of how many people are allowed inside just right, if we can get people using the mask all the time, if we can implement better air circulation and filtration systems, if we can deploy these control systems a bit more strategically, then I've got faith that we can prevent having to close down these things strategically again. We have to dance as the caseloads come up and down until the vaccine arrives in several months.
Yeah, there's already a terminology called COVID dance that we are dealing with, isn't it, when we walk on the streets? But Doctor, quickly, if you could, you mentioned about indoors and how that's a perfect setting for the virus to spread. But we are heading towards winters. There is a change of season. We all are heading indoors. What do we need to be careful of?
We need to be careful of being indoors with people we do not usually associate with. Indoors with your family, that's fine. You're exposed to them all the time anyway. But indoors with strangers, like in a restaurant or a bar or a cinema or a casino, that's what's dangerous. If you have to be indoors in such an environment, wear a mask, keep your distance, and be in a place where there's sufficient air circulation, ventilation, and filtration.
All right. Dr. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist with the University of Ottawa. Appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you.